Welcome to the Analytics of Dynasty podcast. I'm your host, Jordan McNamara, and this is a preview of one of the Dynasty Daily podcasts that I put out for members over at analyticsofdynasty.com. Every Thursday, I run down Dynasty trades from the Analytics of Dynasty trade database. Our trade database searches well over 6,000 leagues to provide you a searchable platform where you can look at all the trades made about different players. You can look and see who's got an uptick in their trading volume of potential buy and sell candidates from that list. It's a pretty interesting way to look for potential dynasty trading candidates, whether you're looking to either buy them or sell someone off your team where there's a lot of volume. You can kind of know, hey, there's something up with that player. We can explore it. And then you can also search for all the trades made between different players too. So you can search. You want to find out what the market looks like for Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield in a trade. Boom, put them both in there, and it'll show you all the trades involving both of those players. So that's pretty novel in terms of things that we offer. That you won't be able to get anywhere else. So you can find all that analyticsdynasty.com, become a subscriber. You can actually become an app subscriber and just get that in the real draft position, or become an Analytics of Dynasty subscriber. We have a platform where you can join the GroupMe, which is the Analytics Dynasty subscriber chat, or you can just become a member to the site, and that will give you all of the content, your Dynasty Daily podcast, your Dynasty tiers, your real draft position, your Analytics of Dynasty trade database, as well as plenty more over there. So you can go ahead and subscribe there today, analyticsofdynasty.com. Don't miss out, especially if you're doing Dynasty startup drafts at this point. We have a tool that's, I think, unbeatable in terms of what you'll be able to, information you'll be able to possess going into a draft. You can put in the pick that you're looking for and trying to determine, hey, what are the odds that the player that I want to pick in this range is going to be available? And it is an incredible tool. And so you can go ahead and use that and say, hey, listen, I know that, in the third round, my running back's going to be there with an 80% certainty. So I know in the first two rounds, I can build around that, right? It's an immensely valuable thing. Or, hey, I'm picking at at 7-10. I got to wait, out 7-11, 7-12, 8-01, 8-02 to get back to my pick. Who's the most likely guy to make it? What's the correct order I should select these guys? The Dynasty, the Analytics Dynasty Real Draft Position Tracker will help you answer that question, and it's great. So go ahead, check that out. Enjoy the free preview of the Thursday trades. And this was from last week. And until next time, continue embracing the variance. We'll talk again very soon. Welcome to the Analytics of Dynasty Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan McNamara. So we're diving into some Thursday trades here, 10 Dynasty trades for your Thursday. Dwayne Haskins for a 2022 third in Superflex. I sort of get the premise, but I think I'd rather send like multiple thirds for, someone better. I get the idea of doing this and sort of taking a developmental shot. Do multiple force, or go up a tier would sort of be my thought. I understand the premise, and I don't think it's like a terrible idea. I just have pretty low hopes for Haskins, but you're sort of hoping for a big time uptick from there. It's the right type of bet. I don't hate the bet. I would try and structure it a little bit differently, but I think it's a sound upside type shot, even though it's a pretty low probability event. But heck, 2022 thirds, probably low probability events too. I think it's more of a give me the flexibility, right? Because I want the opportunity to be able to do the next one when it comes along. Davonte Parker for a 2022 third. That's almost the same thing for me. I think Parker's probably a better asset than Haskins in terms of like usability for lineups and stuff. But at the same time, I'm questioning a little bit the idea that if I give up the pick, like I can't go third to second in a pick next year. I can't go third to first in a pick in a trade at some point in the next year. It gives me the inability to address the position. Could I do that third in season for someone that I sort of know is producing instead of taking the shot right now? It sort of leaves open all of those things. So that would be the question and concern that I would have there. This one's really fascinating from a existing versus startup draft lens. Alvin Kamara for Dalvin Cook in a 2023 third. Now, our data has Alvin Kamara at 202 in startup drafts, Dalvin Cook at 110. So this is basically the most expensive person the more expensive player in startup drafts plus. Listen, I think it'd be nice if it was like a second or something like that, and it's something a little bit more to hang your hat on. I think maybe the better bet right now, at least the one the market likes just a little bit more, is Cook. I don't know. I think if you're getting two assets on that side, I think I'd probably take the Cook side. I've been notably in my Dynasty career been a little bit lower on Cook. Kamara's been my guy. But I think there's probably more questions about Kamara right now than there is Cook. We sort of know what Cook is. Heck, we know what Kamara is largely in that offense. But that's a Breeze offense. Just sort of what does that look like? All those things. So I don't know. I think you're getting two assets. I'd much rather have it go third to second or something like that. Or 2 seconds for a first instead of just getting that third. But I sort of see what it is there. I don't have a problem taking the Cook side there. 2022 first for Derek Carr. This is one of those ones where I think this is probably right generally. But I guess my question and concern would be is if you're given that first there, how much of a difference, like if you're doing this, how much of a truly big time difference is Derek Carr making? And because that's I think a lot of times people make these types of trades and don't know that. So just sort of have that in mind, right? So I don't necessarily have a problem with this, but for example, how long, and this is probably going to prompt me to do it, Derek Carr sort of deep dive, but how long do you expect Derek Carr to sort of be the answer at quarterback? And at the same time, how long is he going to outproduce a guy like Brady? And can you get Brady for a lot less? Right. So if the answer to that is you think that Derek Carr is a 10-year pro, 10-year starter, right, then that answers that question. I'm not sure. Right? That's something I'm going to look at a little bit more interesting. Each week, one of these usually prompts me diving in a little bit deeper. So Derek Carr will probably be the one for this week. Jay Sternberger in a first for Daniel Jones. See, that's an interesting one too. Right? You sort of compare the first there. I'd much rather have Derek Carr than Daniel Jones. So I'd rather have the pick side there. And Sternberger. Sternberger's not too interesting really at this point, but you get to reset the clock. It was non-premium as well. But you get to reset the clock. Eckler and Boyd for Kamara. I would be interested in doing this and sort of pivoting off of Kamara if it was something better than Boyd. I think Boyd's probably... He's going to be one of those guys that in like 3 years are going to look back and be like, damn, he was better than I thought he was going to be. But at the same time, I'm not sure how much of a difference he makes. So even if that is true, I'm not sure how much of a difference that makes ultimately in terms of, how many wins, what's his WAR situation like, all those things. And do I really want to take the down tick from Kamara to Eckler, even though I think Eckler could be close? Heck, Eckler could outproduce Kamara. I'd be interested in this if it was Ayuk, DJ Moore, someone, Keenan Allen, someone like that. I'd be much more interested in doing that. Just Boyd just doesn't really do it for me, so it feels like I'm just taking a down tick on the top player. This one's really fascinating in terms of a lot of different things going on. So James Robinson, A.J. Brown, and a 2022 Superflex second for T. Higgins and Derrick Henry. And I just sort of kept coming back to this one. I kind of wonder what the aims are on this. Like, I'd love to do, 10 minutes with each owner and ask them, what were you thinking here? What was your sort of premise? What was your idea? Just because I'm not sure it makes a ton of sense. I guess if I sort of look at it, I would say, all right, maybe the guy moving off Higgins or moving off Henry is, let's go, we're going to go wide receiver, running back. Or we potentially see, we're trying to do a Higgins to AJ Brown upgrade, I guess. I don't know. It's a really interesting construct there. I think I'm taking the AJ Brown side of this just because it's a little bit more fluid of an asset. You're not worrying about Derrick Henry being on the aging side of this. AJ Brown's plenty good enough. I think Henry's probably got the biggest season left in the bag here, but I think AJ Brown's probably the guy that's got multiple ones. Heck, you get a one injury away guy, you get a second. You sort of look at all that, I sort of look at this and is James Robinson in a second for T. Higgins like relatively fair? Yeah. And you got AJ Brown to Derrick Henry. Is that relatively fair? Yeah. I mean, we could quibble there a little bit, I think, on either ends of that, but that's kind of would be how I would think about this. And I think I'd probably take the AJ Brown side on this. Then I'd probably look to pivot. What could I do? AJ Brown to DJ Moore plus or all of those things. The other thing, too, I would say about that is when you sort of are working that pivot, when you're working the intra-positional, so within the position arbitrage, it can be very, very difficult to do that because then people realize the inefficiency that they're staring at and won't do this. So maybe try this deal, right? If you're sort of doing the pivot, say, hey, listen, I don't love A.J. Brown or whatever. I'm going to pivot off of A.J. Brown. What can I do? One of the things you can do is before you make the deal, try to pivot off of A.J. Brown. So that would just be one thing that I just caution, keep in mind. Sometimes that cascade deal where you're trying to pivot off of the highest guy you got, if that's A.J. Brown, you get him in a deal, try and pivot off of that. Sometimes it's a really nice idea, but it can be tougher to do because people are staring at the arbitrage. All right, Deshaun Watson for Mac Jones and a 2022 first. This is a throw grandma aside to accept. I mean, just the upside. I don't think there's a ton of risk in doing this, and I think there's a huge amount of reward. So that's pretty much all you need to know about the Watson side. This is I stole two multiple tight end leagues here to start two mandatory tight end trades. So the first one is Cole Kmet and a 2022 second for Robert Woods. That second tight end starter really amps up the juice there on the tight ends. And Robert Woods is a good player. I'm not sure he's a huge time difference maker. The second's valuable in a start two tight end format for sure. I'd probably take the Kmet side just because I think the floor is pretty high. That's kind of the same bet that you're making with Woods. I think the floor is pretty secure with Kmet. I don't think it's particularly high in a start one sense, but I think in a start two sense, like he's probably going to be, at or above replacement level for a while. Would sort of be my take on him. And you get a second thrown in there, which again with the second tight end, I think gives you a lot of flexibility. Those seconds when you sort of go super flex two tight end or super flex two QB, for example, those things can be very, very, very valuable. So I like to Kmet and second side. Again, that feels like going from a non-premium asset and a non-premium format to going to a non-premium asset in a very, very premium format, and you're basically getting two of them. So that would sort of be my angle on that. The other one is a 2022 second for Ferkser, which, again, it feels kind of fair in the format. I'd probably rather have the second, even though I like Ferkser quite a bit. It's pretty risky, and I think that second, I'm not sure if Ferkser's like, 80% of like what his upside could be, how he's that much different. So than that second. But that'd sort of be my angle there. And I think there's other ways to fix it, right? You could trade less for Jimmy Graham, or you could trade less for Jimmy Graham's my go-to in these sorts of situations. You could probably trade less for like Gerald Everett, for example. So those would be sort of the pivots that I would think about for sure. All right, some other you could probably maybe even trade less for Gronk. I'm not sure, but I was Jared Cook, right? Those would all be things that I would explore before I'd maybe trade a second for Ferkser. All right, top guys traded over the past 7 days: Josh Jacobs, Cortland Sutton, Mike Davis, Julio, DeAndre Swift, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which is notable, Kamara, Gesicki, and Wentz. Wentz is the most traded quarterback. Last 14 days: Shenault, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mike Davis, Julio, Jerry Jeudy, Josh Jacobs, Zach Moss. I've been spotting and trying to move off him. Darnell Mooney, Darrell Henderson, and Cortland Sutton. And over the last 30 days, no surprise here, Julio, Jeudy, Shenault, Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis, Chase Edmonds, Kenny Galladay are the ones there of note. So yeah, I mean, this is we see some of these guys constantly popping up, constantly re-entering our sphere of trades and of trades and interest and whatnot too. I left Shenault off that list of the top guys in the last 30 days. So he's been pretty active over the past. He's the third most traded guy in the last 30 days. So he himself is pretty active. But you sort of keep seeing some of these guys circle back through. Right, Julio's a big one. If you got him, enter the space and see what you can get. Use the trade database, sort of come up with some ideas, and I think that can help you quite a bit. So, all right, well, that'll do it for this episode. Until next time, continue embracing the variance, and we will talk again very soon.